Thank you very much. I cannot tell you how, I think that mic is working, that's why. I'll take it from you when I want it, yeah. I cannot tell you how honored and privileged I am to be here. And sometimes, in fact, I've been wondering, why am I here? I'm just a mere small mortal amongst the giants who are sitting in this room, some of whom I have only worshipped from afar. Mr. Ramadorai, Mr. Sani, Mr. Shivanand, Mr. Banaji, and Mr. Nishar, so many of you, Mr. Mehta, obviously. He's the only person who, I've known before this, but all of you, and I can assure you that many of you, including some of these, are far more qualified to talk about today's topic than I am. What I will try and do today is not talk about AI as a technology, because my whole objective is to try and tell you that it is not a technology. It's much bigger than that. It's a planet and humanity shaping force that in some sense has been unleashed upon us by us only. And whether we like it or not, we are firmly in the age of AI. And whether you might be interested in AI or not, but AI is very interested in you. And so how the world changes and everything changes and to do that, what I'm going to do is, in some sense, talk about I'll take 5 or 6 points of view that I have about AI. Now, those points of view, you do not have to agree with. Some of them are controversial. Some of them are, well, fairly evident. But I basically will present my points of view on this philosophy, almost, called artificial intelligence, a set of technologies. The topic that was given to me by Mr. Shivanand initially surprised me, because he wrote that you talk about AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly. How many of you have seen that movie? I don't do lectures, by the way, I do conversations. So you'll have to get used to that. So this one is a Mr. Rooshikumar Pandya conversation on his 12th this thing. How many of you have seen the movie? Years back. So, I thought I will start, for some people who haven't, I'll start by having a conversation with one of my AI friends to see, what the movie was about, and then why is this such a apt topic. Hopefully this will work. There are many of us in the room, so the networks will not be what they usually are. Hi, are you there?
I'm right here. What's on your mind?
So tell me, this movie, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, tell me in 50 words, what is this movie about? Who's the good and the bad and the ugly? And why are they good, bad, and ugly?
The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly follows 3 gunslingers hunting hidden gold during the Civil War. Blondie is the good, a crafty but morally inclined bounty hunter. Angel Eyes is the bad, a ruthless mercenary. Tuco is the ugly, a cunning bandit. Their labels are ironic. None is purely good or evil.
So it's interesting that you say that their labels are ironic. Neither is really good or evil. Can you explain that a little bit more? Maybe don't exceed 75 words.
Sure. Blondie, though the good, manipulates situations for gain. Angel Eyes, the bad, is brutal but disciplined. Tuco, the ugly, is crude yet resourceful. Each is complex, flawed yet relatable, showing morality depends on perspective, not a simple label.
Morality, says my friend, depends upon perspective, not just a simple label. And so even with AI, sometimes we talk about AI as killing everyone or AI doing such great stuff. It really depends on which way you want to look at it. And so as we kind of go through these 4 or 5 things that I'm going to talk about, the good, the bad, and the ugly is something which will come in subtext and really will depend in many ways on the eyes of the beholder, or the ears of the beholder in this case, as to what is good, what is bad, what is ugly. We are very, very good as human beings to put labels on things. But sometimes those labels are very, very misleading. AI is an evil technology, labeled. AI is a is the world's, is the answer to world's problems, labeled. So that's why the topic you gave has many layers, okay? And so let's kind of come to a conclusion, hopefully at the end of this hour or 45 minutes, as to which of these three AI is. So these are the 5 things that I want to present to you. I'm not going to read through all of them, but we're going to go through some of them. The first one actually will take the maximum time. So don't think it's 1 multiplied by 5 in terms of time, okay? But the first one is going to take the maximum time. But before I talk about AI, I want to talk about us, human beings. So we human beings became the #1 species, the pole species, because we are very good at building tools, which we sometimes call technologies. And these tools and technologies sometimes lead to entire revolutions. So a set of tools and technologies that we built made food abundant, and that was the agricultural revolution. Another set of tools and technologies made labor available, abundant, the industrial revolution. Few hundred years from then, a set of tools and technologies which we call the internet or search made information available to everyone, the information revolution. Now, each of these revolutions do not just change the way we work or our businesses, they change everything. They change how we live, they change society, they change countries, geopolitics, economies, in fact, the planet and humanity itself is changed because of these revolutions. And that's why at the cusp of every revolution, we human beings feel both excited as well as scared, concerned, what's going to happen. Now, today we are at the cusp of the next this revolution. Again, we are both super excited as well as concerned or frightened. Now, if this was the short history of humanity, the short history of AI is, okay, that slide is missing. Now, even if this was the short history of AI, what is undeniable is something which I said earlier, which is that whether we like or not, we have entered the age of AI. Think about it. Before the war, US GDP growth was about 4%. Without the $600 billion investments, the growth rate was 0.1%. The economy is propped up on AI. In fact, those $600 billion are actually going to magnify to $7 trillion by 2030. Geopolitics, only oil used to decide geopolitics. Oil still does, as we are seeing it. But beyond oil, now most of the geopolitical war between the big two is on around data, AI, semiconductors, etc. And I can go on and on in terms of how AI is now shaping the world and how we have kind of entered into the age of AI. And therefore, we have no choice but to know more about it, embrace it, etc. Now, AI is not a new technology, by the way. With the honorable exception of people sitting in the first row, can anyone guess when was the term, when was AI as a technology born? Which year? When did it come out? Okay, any other guesses? 70? 1700. I mean, in many ways, all of you are right. And if you hadn't said 1700, I would have said 1956, which is the time when the term artificial intelligence was actually coined. Though from the 1500s, some allusion to that would keep on happening. But the first way it was scientifically treated was actually through a paper which was written in 1956 in something called the famous McCarthy Conference. And AI has been building itself since then. It is not just November 30th, 2022. What happened on November 30th, 2022? ChatGPT was born. We remember chatbots' birthdays also these days. And this has been happening actually, and so it's not new. It's been marinating, it's been becoming more and more powerful since that time. But generative AI, which is what most of us know through ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, etc., actually came about through a very famous paper, one of the 10 most consequential papers written in technology, called Attention is All You Need. from the labs of Google Brain, as it was then called. And generative AI is different from the AI that used to be. And how is it different? See, many scholars, wise men, like Noam Chomsky, for example, have said that what separates human beings from the rest of the species is the fact that we are the only species which can use language at scale. 8 billion of us can potentially talk to each other, collaborate with each other, and that has made us the pole species. No other mammal, animal can do that. No other species can do that. Until recently, when we have created another species which is also trained on language. Now, I'll come to that. ChatGPT or generative AI was born of language. GPT-3, which was one of the forefathers of ChatGPT, the one we know today, was created through the language of the entire internet. So the entire internet was actually downloaded in a particular disk one day, and that became the pre-training data. The P of GPT is pre-training data for the powerful algorithms which came out of the Google paper that I mentioned, which are called transformers. That's the T of GPT, generative pre-trained transformer. The transformers could actually work on that data and very simplistically saying, could actually predict the next word if you gave it a series of words. And that series of words is what we now call a prompt, a fashionable word for language. Just guess the next word and then the next one. And so therefore, generative AI is in a way nothing but the world's most powerful autocomplete technology. It makes up stuff as it goes along. It is not optimized for the truth. It is optimized for believability. It sometimes is creative, sometimes hallucinates. If I was to ask you that other than generative AI or ChatGPT, which is this other thing which also doesn't know most of the things many times but still says it very believably, sometimes is creative, sometimes is not, makes up stuff as it goes along. Besides generative AI, who else does that? Who's the chief human? This is humans, okay. We and ChatGPT are born of language. That's why we get along so well. That's why we say please and thank you to each other, when we talk to it. And this language thing is going to keep on coming in everything that I talk about. Language is the foundation of AI as it works today. And that has many, many implications which we will talk about. So the first implication, and why this is not a mere technology. When a lot of us, at least people who are my age and older, were growing up, we were told that to become successful, the passport to success was to learn English. And so we all went to English medium schools. And since we are sitting in a fancy hall with some great people here, arguably we have been successful. Now, our children, on the other hand, were told that to be successful, they needed to learn how to code. So coding became the new English. With generative AI, that changes, reverses. Every time that you write on ChatGPT or whatever, actually you're writing code. You're making a machine do something. That is what code is in many ways. And Claude and many others, when you write in English, it actually produces Python code at the right-hand side. So what has happened is that potentially 8 billion people can code. And therefore, English has become the new coding. This is very, very, very powerful. I teach at Ashoka, among other things. I have fingers in many pies. I teach a course on AI at Ashoka University. I just finished this year's course last week. One of the students there is 22 years old. His name is Sabari. He's from Tamil Nadu. He's been 100% blind since birth. And this whole course this time was on what is called vibe coding, which is using natural language to code. This guy, using a bunch of different models, software, etc., was not only following my lectures on the phone, only because enabled by all the AI that was there, but he actually, in front of me, coded a spell check, auto check for WhatsApp messages for blind people in front of me. So this was not possible before. And he's actually building now a way for blind people to buy on Amazon or Flipkart. Think about it. Blind people can't buy on Amazon or Flipkart. And he's building what he calls an auditory mirror. He is a master's in international relations. So this super powerful ability, at one end, AI is a very non-democratic, centralizing technology. On the other hand, it is so democratizing. And that's the one big impact. The other thing, how many of you here, including the first row, have used Perplexity to search? Of the people who have used Perplexity to search, how many have gone back to Google search? No one. You know, after 20, 30 years of Google search, we have realized we didn't want to search. We wanted answers. Google search makes you search more. Perplexity, which is chat-based, and so is ChatGPT, is a search to where you get answers. And so Perplexity.ai, another model which you can try free, is not a search engine, it's an answer engine. But it's not just how you search. Think about it. The entire World Wide Web, the internet, is created on us searching. Because only when we search, we send out traffic, okay, which props up the internet, which is what is the monetizing, which is what is the economy of the internet. Now, if that changes to us actually going for answers, the entire World Wide Web wobbles. AI is doing many more things than just us doing, sentence summarization. Bill Gates said it a while back. I know he's not very popular these days because of certain files that have come out. But he still thinks well when he's thinking of non-file things. Okay, he said that AI is the new UI. UI means user interface. UI is how we and machines talk to each other. And user interface started from, the DOS kind of interface, graphical user interface, and then search bar, and then whatever. The user interface so far, by the way, all these are articles of mine. I write twice a month for the Times Group, okay? And I keep on flashing those because those are my thoughts anyway. So that is how you used to work with machines. We still work with machines. It's through apps, basically, largely. The demise of the app stores begins now. Apps, the new user interface will look something like this. You know what I was doing with it? I was using voice. This was the screen in front of me. Now, you don't need an app for everything, different app, if you can just ask it to do stuff. And so 2, 3, 4 years from now, the user interfaces will change. Devices will change. The phones are not going to look like this. The OSs on the phones are going to be large language models. The newer devices have started. So this most successful device in human history is going to morph because of AI. Agents. Bill Gates, again, in the pre-file era, talked about agents becoming the new platform. And what are agents? You might have heard the word AI agents all over town. These days, they are the happening thing. It's very simple. If an AI tool can tell you to do something, an AI agent can do it for you. Agent comes from the word agency. So if you give AI agency to do something, it will do. So a ChatGPT or something else can draw up a brilliant itinerary for you to go to France in 3 weeks' time, depending on which flights are flying, etc. But if that was an agent, it could not only do that for you, it could also book your hotels and your tickets at 3:45 a.m. some morning when the prices were the lowest, knowing the environment, knowing your preferences, knowing what kind of frequent flyer stuff you have, etc. You remember the human booking agent? Why did we go to a human booking agent? Because he knew stuff about us. You didn't have to, it's the same thing, except that the agency now moves from the human to the AI. And there are many things which will happen. I'm not going to talk about agentic AI and what is agentic AI, but what I'm going to talk about is how agentic AI changes everything. For one, for people who have a little knowledge of software, and you refer to it, sir, that what is going to happen to software companies, I personally think that all of them will coexist, we will all morph, etc. But SaaS, which has been like the bedrock of software, SaaS is software as a service, also morphs. SaaS, software as a service, changes into service as a software. So software as a service, broadly put, and I know I'm in the presence of giants here, so I have to be careful of what I say, but software as a service is when you give access to software tools so that a certain workflow, a certain work can be done. You pay for access to the tool. With humans plus agents, you pay for the outcome of what those tools, so service as a software rather than software as a service. Because, again, much like the search and answer thing, people are starting to realize that organizations don't want drills. They want 1-inch holes. Software as a service is when you sell drills to make the hole. Service as a software is you sell the hole already made. Okay, and I know outcome-driven models precede AI, but AI is accelerating those models because of all the agentic capabilities that it brings. In fact, for people here who work in organizations, I'm sure that you have very diverse organizations, representative organizations, but still your organizations are entirely composed of human beings. That also changes. My company is just 3 people, humans. We have a desk, a 4th desk in our office for a Mac Mini, which has a bunch of agents living in it. A lot of people think that we actually are many more people because of all the different kinds of things that we do. People think we are at least a 25-30% company. We are 3 people because our teams are hybrid teams. Okay, they are diverse teams in the new way. And it's not just me. Mine is the smallest company on earth. The biggest company on earth, owned by Jensen Huang, NVIDIA. Every time they onboard an employee, as you were saying, they onboard 20, 30 AI agents along with that employee. And therefore, Jensen Huang said something very interesting last year. He said that IT will become the HR of AI agents. Think about it. HR, good old HR, is responsible for recruiting human beings in your team. IT will be responsible for recruiting AI agents for the rest of the team, rest of the roles, and how that kind of entirely changes. More changes because of agentic AI. A lot of us were in the era when there were small mom and pop stores, Kirana stores, and then some of the Kirana stores gave way to departmental stores, and there was this revolution in retail. And then a bigger revolution happened with e-commerce. And then another revolution happened with Q-commerce. An even bigger revolution is in the offing of something called a-commerce, agentic commerce. I was in the car with my fiber to fashion friends, and I was thinking about this when he was talking to me. Agentic commerce basically means that your agent goes and negotiates with Walmart's agent to get the best price and shops for you. Now, not on everything, you still want to shop. Again, with e-commerce, it doesn't mean that other retail went away. All of those, and e-commerce will also take its place, but the changes it will do are immense. It is not just agents going and shopping. Remember again, all of e-commerce in the world today is made for human beings. So the stories written there are what would appeal to us, human beings. Agents don't care 2 hoots about those stories. Okay, they want precise information delivered in the way an agent would understand. And as agentic commerce comes in, and by the way, one of my articles states, last year, Black Friday, about 0.5% of all Black Friday sales were AI driven, either through e-commerce or through traffic being thrown from these chat GPTs of the world. The World Wide Web moves, wobbles, e-commerce changes. And so the internet itself is going to evolve. The devices change, apps go away. And so what AI is doing is much, much, much bigger than what we thought. In fact, if you were to believe Yuval Noah Harari, whom many of you I'm sure would have read about, he believes that the next evolution of the human species is human plus AI. That's why mad people like Elon Musk are doing what they're doing, injecting AI into, I don't know how many of you know of his company called Neuralink, which is AI plus human being. So, Homo erectus, Homo australopithecus, Homo sapiens, and according to him, Homo Deus, which is, Deus means God, by the way, in Latin, which is humans plus AI. Now, I'm not sure whether this is going to happen or not, but if it does, as I said, these technologies impinge and change humanity in itself. Singularity, we were talking about it. I teach at Singularity University. And singularity, many of us think, is this term which was created when AI becomes more powerful than a human being. It's now supposed to be 2029. Singularity is not actually that. Singularity, as the word suggests, is when humans plus AI become one. Singularity. Okay, and so where we are heading towards is much bigger than just a mere technology. It is much, much, much bigger than that. And that is the first thing, the main thing that I wanted to say. The other stuff is smaller. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is that the single biggest impact of AI will be on how we work. The use case, as many of friends in industry are fond of using this word, the biggest use case of generative AI is work. And work will get transformed the same way as it got transformed with digital stuff, with Excel and PowerPoint and other things. Work was very different earlier. And why is that? What happens? So about 2.5 years back, there was a survey by Microsoft and LinkedIn, 31,000 employees across 31 countries in the world, including India. Basically, one of the results which came out was that only about 40% of work which people do, white-collar work, not blue-collar work, white-collar work which people do in organizations is actual creative work, what is called deep work. The other 60% is useless work. Reformatting into something else, doing Teams meetings, Zooms meetings, whatever meetings. Okay, what is called busy work. Whenever I show this slide to organizations, they say I'm wrong. It's not 40-60. It's more like 20-80 or even 10-90. Now, what generative AI promises to do is to take away that 60% of busy work. And how? Let's go down one more layer. White-collar work is really three things. You act as something. You act as a police officer or well, police officer is not white-collar strictly. So you act as a marketeer, you act as a journalist, you act as a CEO, whatever. The second thing is you create something. You create a PowerPoint presentation, or you create a sales pitch, or you create an ad copy. You create something. The third is you show what you've created as something else. You show it as a PowerPoint slide or as a chart or anything else, right? I know it sounds very basic, but this is all what we do, really, when we sit and do work in offices. These are the three things we do. Now, the third one, show as, will entirely be taken away by AI. Showing something as something else, something as something else. That's what has started happening a lot. Number two, creating something will be co-created. Human plus AI. That's why Microsoft calls it the co-pilot. It's not an autopilot. It's not going to do everything for you. It's not even the pilot. You're the pilot. But number one, the act as remains human. So everything that I'm sharing with you today, frankly, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini could have shared all of this 10 times more in 10% less time without you braving the traffic. But you still came to hear a human being who showed up. You can create the best sales pitch along with AI, but when you need to go sell, you need the human there. And so work will change in many ways. So if work changes, obviously everyone's top of mind question, what happens to jobs? Now, it's not a simple answer, but four things. One is that every technology in that staircase that I showed you has taken away jobs. Every AI will take away 25 to 35%, 40%, 20 to 40% of jobs depending on who you believe. Okay. But every technology, when it has come, certain jobs are not touched at all. So if you're a construction worker or a farmer or a nurse for that matter, you're safe for a long period of time. What is interesting, however, is number 3 and number 4. Every technology that has come so far, if you're a student of history, has created more jobs than it has destroyed. Always. Net new jobs are positive. Always. The problem is, we don't know how many, and we don't know which. We didn't know digital marketer, online reputation manager, search engine optimizer, before digital came. These jobs emerged. So they will here also. But the fourth one is most interesting. About 60%, depending on who you believe, of jobs will be impacted in some way or the other. So if you're a software engineer and you use these tools called Cursor or Claude Code or GitHub Copilot, you will be a better software engineer than someone who doesn't. Similarly, if you're a marketer, similarly if you're a teacher, similarly if you're a journalist or a lawyer. And so it's not AI that's going to take your job, if it does. It's a person using AI who will. And so for mostly young people, the choice becomes very stark. Which part of the side of the equation do you want to be in? The replacer or the replacee? And the job impact, frankly, is already here. You see these headlines, many of these headlines, including your old organization, sir, where it was misattributed, but still. Most of the companies are shedding jobs today. And the thing which is emerging is very troubling, that most of the jobs which are going away are the entry-level jobs. So the bottom rung of the job ladder is breaking. And that's hugely worrisome. Study after study says that. In fact, there are now these memos by, this Toby Lutke is the founder of a company called Shopify, very big e-commerce enabling company. And his memo leaked out. It said that anytime if you want to recruit someone, first you have to come and prove that that role cannot be done by an AI. And then only you can hire a human being. And so the weird part therefore is, and all these headlines, that AI seems to be turning against its creator. The industry which seems to be most hit job-wise is the tech industry. And why is that? There's something very interesting, which a very famous technologist, a software engineer called Kent Beck, had stated. He tweeted it, posted it a while back. He said that, look, I've been reluctant to try ChatGPT, to code. I've been reluctant to try ChatGPT. Today I got over my reluctance, and now I understood why I was reluctant. The value of 90% of my skills has dropped down to $0. But the leverage for the remaining 10% has gone up 1000x. Now, forgive me, but simplistically, a software engineer's job is two things. He thinks of a developer thinks of the code to write, the structure of it, the grammar of it, the elegance of it, the flow of it, etc., and then he writes it. Then he writes it, the 90% goes away to AI. But that 10% of the thinking part, the human part, is where the leverage goes up 1000x. And so the way people are now building software is changing because of this. And so if that is true, a lot of people ask me, so what do our young people do? And I've written a lot on that. My most notorious or popular articles are the ones where I talk about jobs and humans or jobs and young humans. I believe that for young people, all of us wish we were young, but I wish I was young for this reason. Even if not young, younger. Okay, for this reason. That the avenues which have opened out are much more than the avenues which are closed. So the traditional model, one of the things I wrote is, AI is not just killing jobs, it's breaking the way you get them. So that whole model of schooling, then degree, then masters, then management trainee, then whatever is gone. Today, if the bottom rung is breaking, there are young people I know who use AI to go to the second rung straight away. Bottom rung toot gaya to kya hua? There are the other rungs. Sabri does that. I got a resume from a guy in Odisha who's a BA Odia literature or something. In his resume, it was written his name, BA Odia literature from this university, and 10 agents that he had built. So I said, this is the guy. So the whole way that you kind of look at people and what they do, and frankly, if AI is disrupting everything, every process in every industry, in every company, in every country is going to get disrupted. Each of those disruptions is an entrepreneurial opportunity. Each of those. And so there are multiple. The other thing is how humanities is going to come back. Because remember, this is all about language. You code using language, natural language. And we have always given humanities a short shrift. We always celebrated STEM, and that is what frankly brought us to the situation in the world that we are in today. Okay, but the humanities, where how you articulate, the grammar, the logic, the articulation, engineering doesn't teach you. Humanities teaches you. The reason I teach at Ashoka and only Ashoka is because it's a humanities college who's actually now doing technologies, things you would not have kind of imagined, you know, a little while earlier. Number two. Number three, if it's such a powerful technology, the ethics of it are equally, if not more important than the technology itself. That's why in my late life, some people in midlife, late life crisis go buy Ferrari car, or they go get married for the second time. I went and did another master's degree. I'm a boring person. Okay, and this one was on AI and ethics from Cambridge University. I still spend a lot of time there. And I want to talk about this. We are all very afraid, and we have a right to be afraid, right? All these things, bias, privacy, deep fakes, multiple ills of AI. But remember, every powerful technology is like that. I think I was talking to someone before this saying that when early woman, not early man, early woman discovered fire, she would have been terrified. Terrified. Fire is extremely destructive. So is frankly an internal combustion engine car. It can kill millions of people. But we framed certain rules and people for some reason follow them. Not necessarily in this country, but most other countries. And therefore less people get killed. Nuclear energy. Every energy is dual. So, you know, Andrew Ng gives a brilliant thing that electric motor can do all of these things, but it can also run a guided bomb, as we are seeing in the Gulf right now. Similarly with AI, it's dual. It's a dual-faced technology. The reason I'm optimistic, I'm an optimist, as you would have guessed by now, is that it's only in this technology that we, as humans, have actually started acknowledging and talking about its ills so early. Remember, there was a technology which came before this, which we got very excited by, as excited. We never talked about its bad effects, and today it has become a garbage dump. What am I talking about? Social media. Kitne khush the hum, poke, okay, or whatever, okay, and we never talked about it. There's been no talk about ethics in social media until when destruction happened. AI, people have started talking about it, creating principles around it. Countries have started, despite this fractured environment, US and China are still cooperating on, some certain principles, regulation, etc., etc. Multiple countries, obviously with EU being in the lead, doing all of this. And but it's a complex task. You know, it's very easy to say regulate AI, or bring ethics in AI. It's an extremely complex task, and I just wanted to give you a peek into my Cambridge research to tell you why. You know, in Cambridge, for my final dissertation, I worked on privacy. In fact, my dissertation was very impressive title. It had Tattvamasi, exploring the potential influence of Vedanta philosophy on the perception and attitude towards data privacy in India. Now, in Vedanta, as some of you might know, Tattvamasi means I am that, we are all the same being. And my whole question I was asking was, if we are all the same being, why privacy? And maybe that's why Indians think of privacy very different from the West. There are other reasons, economic reasons, population reasons, density reasons, but no one had explored this reason. And I wanted to kind of explore it. And as a part of it, I discovered that in India, in the top 10 Indic languages, there is no word for privacy. Doesn't exist. We have a fundamental right to privacy by the Supreme Court, built, by the way, entirely on Western philosophical thought. There is no word for privacy in India. The closest word is Gopaniyata, which, by the way, means secrecy. So in the West, if a teenager is studying, is in his room with the door closed, we are saying, "Theek hai, give him privacy." In India, if a teenager has his door closed in his room, like, andar kya kar raha hai wo? So what I'm trying to say is that you can't therefore have like a privacy rule across the world which means the same thing to everyone. And the same is true for every aspect of AI. That's why it's not easy. to regulate. Despite that, today, the garbage dump, the morass that exists in social media does not exist in AI. Parents come and ask me, can my 12-year-old daughter or son use ChatGPT? I'm like, absolutely, just take her away from Instagram. And hopefully, therefore, we will run from it. And that's why I'm kind of a little, I mean, I told you some of my assertions are provocative. This is my third one. I'm an optimist as far as ethics in AI is concerned. Number 4 is what I now do as my life work for the rest of my life, which is about AI literacy. So I have these 3 laws. So I kind of started writing about evangelizing, talking about AI literacy 3-4 years back. I'm not saying I originated it, but I was the one who was beating the most drums around it. Fortunately, now even Rishi Sunak also talks about it. And the thing is this, my friends, that all of us, it'll comfort you to know that all of us don't need to be experts in AI, but all of us need to be literate in AI. The answer to what to do when all this is happening is become AI literate. And my second law states that the definition of literacy itself will change from reading, writing, little bit of arithmetic, to all of that, plus how do we use AI in everything that we do, whether at work or otherwise. And then from an enterprise viewpoint, none of the investments that you make in tools, models, will work unless your people are AI literate. And that's why, and by the way, literacy is different from training. Literacy is not training. You're not trained on a language. You learn a language. Satya Nadella says, don't become a know-it-all, become a learn-it-all. Okay? And you learn a language. Once you're literate, you learn the structure, the grammar, etc., then you don't need to get trained. You can read a book, and you don't need training for every new novel that comes. We in the country, in the corporate world, are training people. Open this screen, then go to the left-hand side. Drop down will happen. Click on that, then this will happen. Gone. Literacy is very, very different and is done in a different way. And you know, because of literacy, in fact, the definition of AI talent will change. Now, all of us know that the best talent in the world today, who people are, Mark Zuckerberg is chasing with $100 million checks, is AI talent. And we have defined AI talent as AI engineers, machine learning engineers, data scientists, we call them AI talent. That's not AI talent, or that's not the only AI talent. AI talent is how everyone in every job will use AI to make their job better, faster, more efficient, productive. If you're an HR recruiter, you will look at the workflow that you have and how you recruit, and you'll say, you know what, I can use Lovable or Replit, these are all tools, to kind of make this workflow much faster. I can do the work of 3 people. That is AI talent. That is what people will be recruiting for. That is what young people will need to become. Not necessarily just creating AI, which is also very useful, but how to use and make everything is how AI talent grows up. And that's why, among the many things that I do, I and a couple of other people created a very tiny company, the 3-person company, called AI and Beyond, with the objective of building AI literacy in organizations and beyond. We wrote this book, my second book. The first one was called The Tech Whisperer, Penguin, available on Amazon. This one also, available on Amazon. Okay, and to build AI literacy, and we've done 40, 45, what we call boot camps in companies with mostly senior management and one below, to make them AI literate so that they can start using AI better, faster, more safely, much more powerfully than they have kind of used it. Because there's so much happening in AI, you sometimes get a little, worried, confounded, whatever. In fact, the government of India approached us, India AI, last year, to kind of create a course to make every Indian AI literate. And so if you want to cheat and not buy my book, then there's a free course available. Okay, and it's on Khan Academy, it's on Coursera, it's on all these big platforms. And the government of India gives you a certificate if you pass at the end of it. I was surprised to learn recently that 5 lakh people have registered for it. 30% have already completed it, which many of you will know is a fairly high completion rate for courses like this. So nothing to, it's also because it's free. Okay, but hopefully this kind of goes further and further, and that's the beyond part. Building AI literacy in organizations and beyond. And so the definition of literacy will change. And all of us, every one of us, irrespective of our age or what we do, needs to become AI literate, because as I told you, we have entered the age of AI, and even if you are not interested in AI, AI is very interested in you. The fifth and the final thing that I wanted to write was something which, again, it's a series of lectures that I gave on the last, but I'm going to just show you 2 slides. It's something which was referred to when Mr. Pandya was being talked about his humanity, about his humanness, about how he came. One of the things which we are doing wrong is that as AI becomes more powerful, we are trying to become more and more like AI, thinking that is the way we will defeat it. That's not the way. As AI becomes more powerful, we will have to become more human. Think about it. What is a prompt? A prompt is a question, something you ask or tell to do. Upstream of a prompt is curiosity. Curiosity is a human trait. A trait which, frankly, first, every child is born with. You've seen babies intensely, shamelessly curious, and then the education system destroys most of it. Whatever little is left, the corporate system destroys, because everyone wants answers. Answers, my friend, have become commodities. It's a commodity now. Everything can be answered. What is important is the question you ask. I talk about the fact that the how is no longer important. The what is much more important. You can know everything about everything. I told you about good, bad, and ugly. I didn't need to go and see the movie or whatever, or even read a philosophical book on why bad should be ugly, ugly is actually good, or the good is actually ugly, or whatever. Okay, you have an answer to everything. It's the questions you ask, and the questions is an inherently human trait. So it's all about reclaiming human skills, which we have lost along the way. Again, with all due respect, our engineers cannot articulate a sentence most of the times. It's not their fault. Okay, but we've lost it. But that thing needs to come back. You know how coding is done these days? I wish I had that picture. In fact, I wrote about it also. That coding is not done with it's done like this. There are mics here, and I start speaking, and I speak for the entire day. And on that machine, Claude Code or something is building the code for me. In many ways, I wrote, it's like going back to our verbal way of teaching, which has been there in Indian mythology, okay, where it was all about just articulating. And so this lost art of curiosity, this lost art of articulation, this lost art of answering questions, language, it all comes back to language, because this is what is kind of building AI. And that's why it's not a coincidence that the models behind all the AIs are called large language models. And this is the world we have lost, and human judgment being the final filter, working with humans alongside how you can work. And in some sense, while India is largely, I wouldn't say lagging in AI, but is not an AI superpower today. But some of these inherent things, basic things, if we correct, we have the opportunity to make India also a second or third superpower. And I wanted to end on the India note, because we are all, I'm assuming all of us are from this country, are Indians. We have a few things going for us. Today we have 2 superpowers, US, China, both of them divergent paths in the way they are building AI and thinking about AI. It's very interesting. US is building towards singularity. I want AGI, I want super intelligence. China is saying, jo hai wo acha hai. let me build applications. US is building closed models. China is building open source models. Look at our world has overturned. A so-called open country building closed AI, a so-called closed country building open AI. In India, we can't do either of those. We have to have, in a sense, a third way. And I wanted to close with that. The advantage that we have is one that we are the most optimistic country about AI in every survey that comes out. The most optimistic. The most pessimistic are Europe, Australia, even the US, very pessimistic. I've written about that. It's possibly because they have a lot to lose, we have nothing to lose. Okay, but we are very optimistic. The second reason is we have this massive entrepreneurial population. And the third is that because of the efforts of Mr. Mehta, Mr. Ramadurai, and many other people sitting in this hall, we created a third way in the digital world, which was about creating digital public infrastructure, treating it as a free digital public good, and suddenly 1.4 billion people have access to digital without knowing that they are doing anything digital. This great digital transformation of a country, we already have that fabric or that structure. What we have to do now is to do the same with AI. Mr. Mehta and I met for the first time when I dreamt up this concept of what I still call, though I did nothing about it, someone else went and is doing something about it, called Jan AI rather than Gen AI, AI for the Janta. And how if AI can become, and which it will, the people are working towards that, a part of the India stack, so that AI also is served to every Indian the same way UPI, digital, and everything else is payments, etc. is served without them really knowing. Think about it. 500 million creators, suddenly, a creator economy born. Land laws, records, legal stuff, healthcare, education, each one of those delivered to you as a digital public good. And in my view, that's the model that India must, and I think will, do to become the third leg of that big AI superpower stool. And that's what I had written here about the AI divide, etc., etc. I wanted to leave you with this last slide. I promise you, it's the last slide, where, a lot of us, when we get frightened or concerned about AI, a lot of that concern is because AI seems to be taking our, what we consider human faculties. Creativity, for example. So, when we see the output of these models, or we see this text to videos being made or pictures being made, we're like, what will I do? I mean, this thing is doing so much more, and my creativity, and we get disheartened, etc., etc. For those, I have this last slide, and I will end there, that 2 years back, a product called Sora was launched by OpenAI. And if you've heard about Sora, it got shut down 3 days back. Is a different new thing, but still. Sora is the chat GPT of video. You give a text prompt and a video gets generated. Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, when he was teasing Sora to the population. So he said, you know what, I'm going to go on Twitter, X, you send me prompts and I will create videos. So people started sending him prompts. And Kunal Shah, Kunal Shah, your local Bombay guy, the Indian entrepreneur, he sent this brilliant prompt, saying, bicycle race on ocean with different animals and athletes riding the bicycles with a drone camera view. What came out was this. This is 2.5 years back, 2 years back. By the way, this has now 10 million views on YouTube, etc. The question that I have for you is, who was being creative here? Kunal Shah or Sora? Kunal Shah. Because Kunal Shah would not have had the imagination to think of sea creatures on bicycles unless there was something which would augment his power. And therefore, that's how you need to think about AI in everything that you do. Okay, it's not here to usurp you. It's here, if you use it well, become literate in it, to actually add on to you, to help you become a superpower, to become a 3x, 4x, 10x employee if you're in an organization. And therefore, as we were talking earlier, AI is not, in many ways, is not artificial intelligence. The way you should think about it, it's augmented intelligence. It augments you, the human being, to become what you could not have become before this. That's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much. Then we can do that, please.
Thank you so very much, Jaspreet sir, for such an informative, enlightening and an intense lecture. I thoroughly enjoyed a lot from you, enjoyed and learned a lot from you, and I'm sure the audience here would agree with me wholeheartedly. I now invite all the dignitaries back on the dais, please. And now we'll take some questions from the audience and request our speaker to help answer them.
Yeah, and whatever I don't know, the rest of them will answer. I will leave it to her to decide who answers. Please ask the question.
Mesmerizing.
Thank you, sir.
1, 2, check.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good. Thank you, sir. This is Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai here. It's an academic question. I can see both the roles as a student at this stage and also as a teacher. Impact on AI on education and academics.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I have a mic already. Look, it's a vast answer, but I'll try and kind of make it short. There is definitely going to be a massive disruption to the way people learn and people are taught. There's no question about it. And if we don't change that way, then the products that will come out are not going to be the right ones, and the teachers who will teach are not the right teachers. The only thing I would say here is, only positive thing I would say here is, look, this has happened before, many times. Since you're a teacher, sir, when calculators came out, there's a picture I have, which I don't have with me here, which is showing a few hundred teachers protesting in the streets of London against calculators. Same thing happened with computers. When I was doing my engineering, scientific calculators came out and they were banned, and we had to do log tables until someone realized that the other institute which is using them is doing much better. And so, look, we will learn to work with it. Right now we have a problem because we are still figuring out how to deal with it. The ones which will learn how to work with it, teachers and students, are the ones which are going to forge ahead. The ones which will not, don't have any choice but to fall behind, because this is not stopping. We'll have to keep pace.
Yeah, can I ask a question now here? Yeah, hello. Thanks, Mr. Bindra. It was an excellent presentation, and enjoyed listening to your words, the words of wisdom. Well, as I listened to your presentation, a very selfish thought crossed my mind. I'm a surgeon, a doctor.
It's a very human
Yeah.
trait. Don't worry.
I'm basically a trained surgeon, a doctor, and the thought that crossed my mind as I listened to you was, how will AI impact the medical practice,
Sure.
particularly the surgical part of the medical practice?
So, I'm not a surgeon, nor I am a medical practitioner, and therefore what I will be saying is very general. Okay? In fact, health, in my view, the number one area other than governance, government and governance, which will have the maximum impact of AI is healthcare in all its different forms, closely followed by education. Okay. There are multiple ways it will impact, and I won't go into them. The only thing I would say is one thing, sir, that your domain skills will become even more important. So, part of the humanity, the human skills which we were talking about, was also domain knowledge. So while AI could help you probably do a more precise surgery, which some of these robotic surgery things, etc., but the judgment that comes with 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of practice, and the intuition, and that gut instinct, which you would agree with me is very important even in your scientific practice, is something which AI for the foreseeable future will not be able to replicate. And those are those humans, the 10% in that 90-10 thing, which is the one which you will need to build up more and more. As AI helps you read through 100 papers every day and gives you a summary of that, which AI will do better than you do. Okay, but what that will feed into is just building up your domain. And this domain thing, frankly, is important for every role. The software engineers, the builders of tomorrow, will be domain experts using AI. And the stronger they are in domains, the better. And that's why I also feel IT services, etc., is not going to disappear. Because there are very strong domain knowledge that people have in those places, which augmented with AI can do. And so it's a general answer since I'm not a practitioner. I'm waiting for her. She is the boss. Are there some people here also who are kind of, yeah.
Hello. Hello, sir. Good evening. Myself, Aditya Gokhale. I am a student at IIT Bombay. So, since I am a student, I have a very basic question. When I use AI or when we put a prompt or when we actually ask a question, basically what happens is the ChatGPT gives us the answer what we require. But after every after every problem, there is one line written which is AI might not be true.
Yeah.
So you need to verify, right?
Yeah, I wish humans also would say that, frankly.
Yeah.
Okay. AI actually is being very nice and frank with you. Most of the times we give an answer, we should actually state, like I stated, I'm not a doctor. Okay, and therefore I don't know. Well, so look, you're absolutely right. Okay, sorry I interrupted you. Was that your question? That
Yeah, I wanted to say that whether it is possible that AI will be able to verify itself without the help of humans, because I think that is when people can start trusting AI more, when it doesn't show that line.
Yep,
I think.
your IIT genes are showing through. Okay, and so this is the big Silicon Valley belief. Okay, that we will make more and more and more powerful AI, which will self-correct itself. It will itself create things which humans could not create, and therefore, you know, according to them, an immense wealth will be created. It will be distributed amongst us poor human beings who will sit and play video games all day. Okay, that's their. If you ask me, it's not going to happen. Okay, and thank God for it. You will always need to verify, and frankly, the verification of AI has the same principles as verification of other human beings. You trust some human beings, you ask around, you don't take everything at face value. Similarly, don't take AI at face value. It's good that it's this way.
Hi. You're a brilliant communicator without any doubt. And I was very impressed when you said it's augmented intelligence and not artificial. Last few days I was in Bangalore for the Indiaspora meeting, and I met with two different schools of thought. One was, you know, our Indians living in America, Silicon Valley, funders, and their view was, you know, we have lost the LLM race, and you know we are far behind, blah blah blah.
Far behind to China?
To America and China.
Ah, okay.
Both.
Yeah. It's
so
true.
we've lost the race. Then we heard Nandan Nilekani saying that we don't need to copy what they are doing.
Yes.
We need to build our own model at scale, at the most affordable price, and in languages that they understand, in their languages. And that's the model that Nandan and his team are working on at 100 the cost of what they are trying to build in America. You know, and the problem is that the guys who are sitting with the checks, you know, in the US, despite their being Indians, are trying to ape that and saying, oh, you know, you guys don't know what the hell you're doing, and so you can't get funding. Do you think that is a challenge, and how do you address?
Herd instinct is another human trait. Okay, but look, Mr. Nilekani obviously is a far bigger, better thinker than I am. And at one fundamental level, I completely agree with him, which I also said here, that we are not going to be able to do, forget whether we should do or not do, what the US and China are doing. We're not going to be able to do it. Okay, and so and where I agree with him is, therefore we have to have a third way. Okay, now there are differing views on what that third way can be, and his view for a long time which has been praised as well as criticized, is that forget about the models. Let, as he famously said earlier, let the rich boys in the valley create those models. What India should be focused on is creating the applications on top of the models. You know, when I do some of my talks, one of the things I talk about, I show what is called an AI stack, which goes from models to applications, which Jensen Huang famously these days calls the 5-layered cake. Okay, and today we have got this blinder kind of instinct that AI equals model. If I wake you up in the night and say AI, you will say ChatGPT, or you will say Gemini, or whatever. Okay, you will say Perplexity. AI is just not the model. Today, the model race is happening. In fact, some of the audience I'm sure will know this, but we are probably at the same age of AI as we were 30 years back with the internet. And can you guess, with honorable exception of here in the first row, as to which was the most valuable company of the internet era when at this time? Early internet era, not Yahoo. Sorry? No? 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 It was Cisco, the most valuable company on earth. It was the NVIDIA of that era. Why? Because Cisco was building what NVIDIA is building, the plumbing of the internet. What happens after that? Where is Cisco? Still a very valuable company, but the value moved up the stack to the application layer. So what are those applications? Google, Facebook, Amazon, apps, applications on that layer, and the same thing is going to happen here. So in many ways he's right that that's where the value is going to move up. Where there's a problem sometimes is that the flip side of that is we will not have sovereign AI. Tomorrow if a tap is shut off, as it was shut off in the case of Naira Technologies a while back by Microsoft, the utilities like power being shut off or LPG not being there, which we are now going to be faced with. Okay, so as AI becomes a utility, can we build that utility also? Okay, otherwise we suffer like we are suffering with other utilities not being built up in our country.
So we are all human beings, and human rights.
I assume so.
Yes, and human rights are the universally accepted rights. What could be the impact of AI on human rights? Because obviously it would lack compassion, humanity. So according to you and as per your expertise, what could be?
I am not a human rights expert. I think I worry more about the lack of humanity in human beings than in AI at this point of time. Because I think we look at, another of my articles was on how we have made AI as the bogeyman. I mean, it's an American phrase. Bogeyman basically means, that one thing which we blame. It's like the air pollution in Delhi. We blame the farmers, responsible for 20% of the pollution, because the other 80% is us, in those vehicles and those, we don't. And so here also, it's very easy to say human rights will be killed by AI. I think the humans are far ahead in the race of demeaning, and that is a huge problem. In fact, in AI, it's called the alignment problem. And alignment basically means how do you build AI, design AI, which aligns with human values. The problem is that human values in itself are disintegrating. And so what do we align AI with? And the bigger problem, therefore, ma'am, is in us, not AI at this point of time.
Good evening, Mr. Bindra, and thank you for such a wonderful and insightful session. My first question has almost been answered here, but I would like to share something. I work with Fiber to Fashion, first of all. I would like to tell that. Secondly, I'm a numerologist as well. So
what as well?
I'm a numerologist as well. And I was doing a name correction, and although I had full faith in the skills that I have, but I just went on ChatGPT, and there is, there's Chaldean numerology. There's a chart wherein they have every letter has a number to it, right? And when I put Shardi numerology in ChatGPT, it was very obvious that it will calculate and give me the answer. But to my surprise, a normal calculation of numbers to sum up was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it was simply the total was coming to 32, which is calculated 31.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe I was wrong,
No.
or the chart which was displayed was wrong. So that was one thing when I thought maybe even if the information is there, and the error of summing up is going wrong. So how can we trust it? That was the
First
first
of
thing.
all, don't use free models to do this.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. When you don't give any money, you get shit in return. Okay. Having said that, think about it. No, you're absolutely right, but it's not the model's fault. Okay. These are large language models. They are not mathematical models. These models, by their very nature, are probabilistic, not deterministic. Okay, search is deterministic. It goes and fetches the answer. Probabilistic means it goes, looks up the internet and finds out the most possible answer to the question that you've asked. That's why hallucinations happen. Okay, because so the way until recently, because you were using a free model, therefore in free models,
True that,
that's
yeah.
changed though. Until recently, the way if you ask ChatGPT 5 plus 8 equals what? By the way, there's a separate science to it called tokens, etc. I'm not getting into that. But 5 plus 8, it doesn't add 5 plus 8. Now it does. What it does is it goes to the internet and sees that 99.99995% of the chance 5 plus 8 is 13. Fetches it, gives it to you. Now the models have changed to become thinking models where actually when you write 5 plus 8, it produces, it sees it's arithmetic, it knows it doesn't do arithmetic, okay, and so it kind of writes a Python script actually, okay, which creates a calculator on the side, and that calculator calculates 5 plus 8 equals 13 and it fetches. So numerical, only till recently with Claude, especially Claude and a few others, numeracy has been conquered by ChatGPT. Otherwise, most of the time, try and ask, even today in paid models, I'm sure you would love to do it as you're going home, try and ask for a clock face which shows 3:30 or 4:45. नहीं दिखाएगा आपको, वो 10:10 ही दिखाएगा. Because every clock face on the internet is 10:10. These are probabilistic models.
Okay. My second question is that are there any possibilities, or has it happened that, you know, like there's small workshops, a 4-day workshop or a 5-day workshop where any course is being taught, you know? So of course, when some course is being taught, there's all the information of that courses which can be AI generated, and instead of a live human being taking up that course, you know, that AI generated agent is doing with a live audience.
Why are you taking away my job, man?
No, I am just asking the possibility.
No, I wouldn't know. If there was, I wouldn't know.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yes, somebody else asked, yeah.
So nice, it was a very good presentation. I just want to understand how to segmentize AI as per your profession.
Segmentize?
AI, it's a pool of AI, there are a lot of AI apps are there. How to segmentize
You know,
as per
these
your
are questions which I sometimes jokingly call consulting questions. Okay. Let's move to the next one.
So I guess I'm the last person. My name is Deepak Rao, and I just want to add on to something which our friend has shared with you. We were looking at more of information and information collection and visuals. Has anyone heard music being created by artificial intelligence? Yes. Has anyone heard that? Have you? Amazing, isn't it? Incredible. So I have a friend who's a struggling music composer, and every week he'll compose some song and send it to me, and which I keep appreciating. Suddenly, about a month back, he sent me some songs and said, I've created this on artificial intelligence. It was absolutely out of this world. So this is just sharing some information.
Google
Thank
has
you so much.
one of the best such models is a model, free model now called Lyria, Lyria, which is a Google model. You'll find it on Gemini, etc., which does some amazing work.
Thank you so much. It was a very enlightening conversation. Thank you so much.
Sir. We'll just take one last question.
Hello. Yeah,
On
hi.
the last row, fittingly.
Yeah, I am Dennis Fernandez. I am representing Kushi Advertising and Hammer. We are an advertising agency, outdoor cinema advertising, and from my experience, I have done a lot of rural advertising. almost 23 years in the rural industry. We all know that India used to be a very heavily agrarian economy, which has come down, but now it's around 15 to 20% or 25% agrarian economy. But the labor force in the economy is almost 50 to 55% still. Now, it's not a question kind of a thing, but just a thought, food for thought, कि ये 55% जो लोग हैं या ये, how is AI going to be affecting them? Because they are not ready to move into that, I mean, they're not ready to, what I have seen, they're not ready to accept how AI can, it can really help them a lot, but they still go by the old methods, the old techniques, because of whatever has been given to them by the ancestors and all those things. So just, I mean, how do you see the agricultural sector basically?
You know, the agricultural sector traditionally, and some of you might bear me out, has been the most resistant to, to technology.
Yes. And that's the biggest, in Indian economy, वो सबसे बड़ा चीज़ है.
Not really. I wouldn't call it the biggest challenge. There are
with the people force. I'm talking about the people force, because see, at the end of the day, we are all corporates out there and all, but then 50%.
So the only thing I would say, just for the sake of time, is again, it's not their fault.
Correct.
The same farmers use UPI, use Aadhaar, okay, use it in every possible way.
Correct.
Without thinking this is digital. If we can bring AI to them in the same simple way, and it's very much possible in their language, through speech. There are startups, etc., working on this. I'm sure that, look, a farmer today is the most desperate human being of all professions. And anything that you can give them. In fact, I used to talk about this number 23. 23 is the number of farmers who kill themselves every day in this country. One every hour. So, if we can bring it to them the same way we have managed to bring certain other aspects of technology, they'll be the first to grasp it. They are not resistant to change. Okay, but we have to take it to them in the right way.
Yeah, so if the government intervention is there, that would be a very good way. I mean, because they relate themselves.
That's another bogeyman, the government.
Correct, that's true, that's true. Thank you so much.
Thank you.